Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. In this video I'm going to be reviewing 3 more books in the Furrowed Middlebrow book series published by Dean Street Press. All 3 of these were kindly sent for me for review after I requested them, so thank you so much for Dean Street Press for kindly sending them to me. I love this publisher, I think they're wonderful. They publish a lot of books that have gone out of print for whatever reason and brought them back for the modern reader, so please go and check them out. I'll leave a link in the description box. So let's get started. The first book that I want to chat to you about is A Chelsea Concerto by Frances Favell. This is a memoir of Frances's life during the Second World War in Chelsea and London during the Blitz, and it was one of the most gobsmacking, eye-opening, interesting reads of 2020 for me, and I have no idea how I feel about it, to be honest. This book blew my mind. It really opened up my eyes to what life was like during the war, because this is a no-holds-barred approach. It talks about the big things that are happening in France, things that are happening across the pond. It talks about things that are happening here in London and very close to home, and it's kind of that micro-macro sort of thing of seeing the small picture then the big picture. And it's such a interesting read, yet such a difficult read. I had to read it quite slowly because it's such a powerful read. When I was talking to Dean Street Press, they said actually this they feel like is one of their best books they've ever published, and I can completely see why. It's such a powerful book. I do feel like this book, extracts of this book, should be printed out and taught in school history classes actually, because I think it's such an important subject to learn about. Learning about actually what it was like, the reality of home during the Second World War. It was absolutely fascinating. I mean, there's parts of this where on one page they're talking about bombings that's happened, and then the next page they talk about going to the hairdressers to get their hair permed. It's going from, you know, the reality of war. It doesn't quite sink in when you read the non-fiction books, but reading a memoir, it's just powerful. So yeah, I have no idea whether I loved it or hated it. Well, I didn't hate it, but I have no idea like how I really felt about it, because my stomach was in knots reading it. It was so powerful. If you're after a book on the Second World War, read this. It will blow your mind, honestly. The next book that I have to share with you is Brampton Wick by Elizabeth Fair. This book was her first book from 1952, I believe, and it's about a place, a little kind of village called Brampton Wick, and there's no big plot line to it. It's just about the place itself and the residents that reside in it, and their relationships, their friendships, their difficulties that they have with each other. And they're really quite distinctive characters. There's a character in here called Pussy, there's one called Tigger. It's very funny, it's warm, it's witty, it's charming. It kind of reminds me of Mapp and Lucia, obviously without the 2 main characters, but you know, when you have this hubbub of the social life, it kind of reminds me of that, but in a country format, and I did really quite enjoy it. I will say about this book, I read it and then I put it down to go to bed, and then I carried on the next day. I think I would have adored this book had I have read it in one sitting, because I think I came out of it, I didn't get as much from it as I could have. So if you have the ability to read it in one go, I mean, I can't because I'm such a slow reader, but if you have the ability to read it in one go, read it in one go, and I think you'll love it, because it is such a lovely book, and I'm really looking forward to reading more Elizabeth Fair in the future. And then last but certainly not least, I have Company in the Evening by Ursula Orange. So this, similar to Chelsea Concerto, is from the Second World War. So this book was published in 1944 and it's set during the Second World War as well. It is about a woman called Vicky. Vicky is divorced, she is a single mother, and she has a housekeeper called Blakey. She has a daughter called Antonia. And it's about how Vicky is getting on. It's about how she's getting on with her housekeeper, how she's getting on with life in general, with being a mother, having a job. She works for a magazine which she sort of organises the short stories. And at the beginning of the book, she is talking to her mother, and her mother currently has Reen living with her. Now Reen is Vicky's sister-in-law. So Vicky's brother dies and leaves Reen a widow. Reen is pregnant with obviously Vicky's brother's child, and so Vicky says, oh, she'll take her in, after all it'll be company in the evening. Very clever, Ursula, very clever. And it's about Vicky's life essentially, and while all this is going on, so is the Second World War. I loved this book. This book was brilliant. It was so good. I read it and it was one of those books where I was reading it and I was like, I don't want it to finish. I kept putting it down every 5 seconds and then having to pick it back up because I wanted to know what happened in the end. I really enjoyed it. I have in 2020 found a new favourite author. 2020 has been quite a difficult year for so many people, but it's so lovely to find the small things that really matter, and finding a new author has actually really helped me out. Dean Street Press have republished 3 of Ursula Orange's books. She wrote 6 in total, and I'm hoping that more of her books will be republished in the future. I did be a bit cheeky and I got in touch with Dean Street Press on Twitter and said, would you republish the others? And they said no, but other people might have other ideas about it. So who knows, we will wait and see. But it's just brilliant. The writing style of Ursula Orange is so me, and just love it. Just love it. Can't get enough. She writes about the age so beautifully as well. I read Begin Again, which is her first novel from the 30s, and that captured the 30s beautifully. This book captures the 40s beautifully, because you're reading something and you kind of forget that the Second World War is going on, and then there'll just be one line and suddenly you've gone from riding up high with your emotions up here to down on the floor down there, and you go down with a third. It's absolutely wonderful. So if you haven't already checked out Ursula Orange, go check her out. She's great. So there we have it. Those are my 3 book reviews from Dean Street Press Forward Middleborough book series. Chat to me all things of these series and these authors down below, and I shall see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.